Now, I would like to request Dr. Arjit Vishwas, who is a group leader in University Hospital of Swan, to give us an insight on these probable solutions of sustainability in our lives.
Seems people are getting scattered here and there. It almost feels like Moses has appeared and the sea has parted. So, I have been tasked with this job of concluding the concept of possible solutions, and after hearing my previous speakers and a lot of you as well, I feel that most of you know more about sustainability than I do. So, in fact, my talk itself has become unsustainable. But please bear with me. Do not shoot the messenger for the next few minutes, because I can see my predicament is of a person who is trying to keep a group of visibly very hungry people from their food. And that's not a very good predicament to be in, frankly speaking. So, quickly moving on. Since I have been a child, or since I have had some amount of consciousness, let's say since my student life, which by the looks of it around was a long time ago, I have been repeatedly being bombarded with the concepts of sustainable solutions, right? So we had middle-aged, or rather old, leaders of the world who are about to retire suggesting solutions. We have had 15-year-olds suggesting solutions, sustainable solutions, right? Do you identify with one of these or both of these?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have Al Gore on one side, and you have the great Greta Thunberg on the other side. But in effect, have we really achieved all through these so many decades that we have been talking about sustainable solutions? Have we really achieved anything? In fact, I feel that we are at a worse scenario than we were before. And why is that? Why is it that a simple thing such as switching off the light when you go away from your home is becoming such a big deal? I mean, okay, I understand. Innovation or solutions exist on two levels. One level is innovation, and the other level is common sense, right? This is common sense. But why doesn't it come organically to us? Let's talk about innovation. Are you aware of this? Yes, I also have one. So that's an iPhone 13. Yeah? It's an incredible piece of machine that has in itself a lot of energy, human capacity, resources invested in it. But what happens when iPhone 14 comes 6 months later? This goes into the dump, regardless of whether I need that or not. Right? So, in effect, I'm looking for a single word why we cannot organically inculcate ourselves into common sense solutions as well as, say, innovative solutions. What is that single word? I'm sorry? Can you just be a little bit louder?
The responsibility, you don't take responsibility for the things you do.
Okay.
Responsibility for it. Like
Any other word?
Show off.
Consumerism, yeah, that's another word, good word to have.
Accountability.
Accountability towards
Self-concentric.
self-conceit. Do you mean to say self-obsessed?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Addiction to luxury.
Show off.
Okay.
Show off.
I'm so glad that none of you arrived at the word that I was going to present, and that is empathy. You know, what does empathy mean? Empathy means you consider an object as an extension of yourself, right? German speakers, can I come up with the German word for empathy? Empfindungsvermögen. Perhaps that's what the deeper translate tells me. So, empathy essentially means to consider an object as an extension of yourself. And where has this empathy, the concept, is it just a concept? Is it a biological attribute? What is it? I think empathy is a very keen biological attribute that has been genetically imprinted into our subconsciousness as we have evolved from primates to humans, right? Why? Because as we have evolved from primates to humans, environment has put on us a strong selection pressure. That's how we have evolved, right? And in order to negate that selection pressure, we needed to be empathic to each other. We needed to support each other. We needed to be empathic to the environment. But as we have moved from, let's say, hunters and gatherers as Homo sapiens to a more materialistic, more rationalistic society, the conflict that is inherent in this society has led to this particular genetic makeup that contributes to empathy, or this genetic imprint to become dead or dormant. So, it is essentially genetic spontaneous sensitivity or empathy that prevents us from approaching any kind of innovative, or let's say even a common sense solution to problems of sustainability. Now I come to a very famous quote by a very famous person, Mahatma Gandhi: "The world has enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed." And I particularly want you guys to focus on the concept of need and greed, right? So it's essentially this distinction between need and greed which basically defines sustainability. But there is a problem. And the problem is need and greed, the distinction, is a very specific concept. It is time specific, so obviously the pharaohs of the Egyptian civilization will not relate to the concept of need and greed like us. Similarly, it's place specific. People who are from the developed nations will not relate to the concept of need and greed as people from developing nations do. Similarly, you have the age and gender specificity. So, a small child will have different ideas of what need and greed is than say an old man has. In a sense, what I'm trying to tell you is that the distinction between need and greed is very, very individual specific. And in order to be sustainable, we need to identify the difference between what is need and what is greed. But because it's individual specific, and we are an earth of almost 8 billion people and still growing, how do we, along with our specific instincts, our nature and nurture, align ourselves in a common way to address the concept of sustainability or to arrive at sustainable solutions? How do we put our minds together without the possibility of having a conflict with each other? I will give you an example of a classroom. So here it is a classroom full of young kids. So you have a typical rebel who is, always trying to go against the grain of nature. You have the studious guy, you have the artist, you have the painter, and you have some nuisance makers as well, right? But as you can see here, because of the different instinct and because of the different nature of these kids, there is a lot of chaos in this particular classroom. There is nothing in order. So what is the solution to this? How do you address this kind of a chaos? How do you bring order in this kind of a scenario? I need now solutions. And I'm talking about solutions. So,
Class monitor.
Assign them some task and
bringing a strict teacher, but it's a good point. Okay, what else?
Assigning them a task, and so that they will be actively, involved in it, and instead of doing one of that.
Channelizing their energies.
We can involve them in a formal activity like sports or something, so they can develop it alive.
You have an interesting point, but what if one does not want to do sports? One wants to sketch.
No, we can have ideas from everybody, but more ideas are there.
Yeah, the idea here is to prevent conflict actually. We can have ideas from everyone, we absolutely get ideas from everyone, but there is always conflict. I don't want to play football, I want to play cricket. I don't want to sketch, I want to play video games, right?
Empathetic teacher.
I'm sorry?
Empathetic teacher.
Brilliant answer, yeah.
Sorry. First, I would change the tables. I would do them in a round to get them more together than to be individuals on every table.
Mm-hmm. Trust the German to talk about structure and order. Well, I will go back to the point that lady made. That is to have a benevolent and an instinct fulfilling teacher. And I choose my words very carefully. Benevolent, not strict. An instinct fulfilling teacher. And why do I say benevolent and not strict? Because if you are strict, if you are harsh, if you are particularly rigid about your ideas or how you implement them, then you might be able to create some order in the classroom, but the same individuals will go outside the classroom and create trouble for you. Yeah, of course, then you can say that's not my problem. Yeah, but that's why the teacher needs to be benevolent. Secondly, instinct fulfilling. What does that mean? It essentially means all these children, each of us, we have a specific nature and nurture. We have a completely different genetic makeup from each other. Of course, we have similarities. But how to address each of the student with respect to his nature? How I can, for example, exploit the idea that one of my students is a very good painter and to involve his painting skills to demonstrating a, let's say, physics experiment. Right? So that is how a teacher addresses the problem of bringing chaos and order to such a diverse classroom. So a teacher who is benevolent and instinct fulfilling. And to myself and to a lot of people in this world, including a lot of people in the audience itself, if I extrapolate the concept of this classroom to the world itself, that teacher is Shri Thakur Anupul Chandra. I think you got a small glimpse into his life and times from Mr. Jagannath Sanyal. It's only when the world has adherence towards one that will result in empathy towards all. I am basically copy-pasting most of the content that my previous speakers have presented, but in essence, that's what I'm trying to highlight. Unless we are united in our adherence, love and respect towards one, it will be very difficult for us to be empathetic towards others, right? But you might ask me, I came to know about Shri Thakur today. Maybe you know about Shri Thakur for a long time. And love and respect is a process, right? I build up this process. I have a love relationship with Shri Thakur because I have known him for a long time. So what is this process? How do I build this kind of an adherence from a person that I have not actually known most of my life? Well, there is a process. And these are primarily 5 pillars towards adherence, towards building empathy, and therefore towards spontaneous, organic sustainability. And these are, the first 2 pillars are Jajan and Yajan. These are primarily Bengali come Sanskrit words, but I will try to give you the root, at least I will give you the gist of what they specifically pertain to. So the Jajan and Jajan, of course, includes and knowing about Sisi Thakur as a master. What are his lives and times? How did he live as a human being? How did he live as a son, husband, teacher? It also includes a lot of psychological and physical exercises. That includes meditation, self-reflection, self-suggestion. Then you have the third pillar, which is known as Ishtabhiti, which is a way of saying a kind of a daily offering, right? Because you are trying to establish a relationship with your master, somebody who you have not known for most of your life. That can only be established by a consistent symbolic daily offering, and that is what is known as Ishtabhiti. Then you have the concept of Swastani, which is essentially basically activities that actively contribute to your health, your existence, and your prosperity. And then finally you have the concept of Sadachar, which is essentially to talk about hygiene. Because hygiene has a very key role to play, as we have all witnessed. We have gone through this pandemic, and I think nobody can tell us better than ourselves how important hygiene is, right? So in a sense, I will end my talk here so that you all guys can eat and not do not trample me while trample over me while going towards the lunch area. But it's very difficult to put Thakur's ideology, his life and times in a very few slides. So there are a lot of people here who are very intimately associated with Sisi Thakur, his life and his times, why we consider him as our master. So during the lunch, I would actually ask you to come up to us and to these people and ask about Sisi Thakur. So thank you very much, and I will